after 4 months and about 4,000 miles, I think I'm finally ready to share with you guys, as a dad who swore he'd never get a van, what I really think about the Toyota Sienna XSE. So in this review, I'm gonna be telling you what's important for someone with a family, like a dad like me, and not necessarily all the car different specs, like the horsepower and stuff like that. Because if you're looking for something with more horsepower or something a little bit faster, maybe a van isn't for you, or maybe you need to look at a different van, as the Sienna actually has probably the lowest horsepower out of all the vans in the market right now. But the trade-off is that it does have the best miles per gallon. So a pretty big elephant in the room is that there's a pretty bad social stigma of owning a van, and I completely understand that, as I never thought I would own a van myself. However, I don't really think it looks as bad as people say. Maybe 20 years ago it did, but definitely now it looks pretty nice to me. So I know owning a van might not seem like the coolest thing. However, there's a huge plus, at least from your child's point of view, because to them, owning a van is probably the coolest thing. I know my son tells all his classmates whenever I go pick him up from school, he always just yells at them, "Hey, my dad has a van. Look, my dad has a van." It's like the coolest thing to him and the coolest vehicle for him. So one of the biggest value about getting the Toyota Sienna is that it's a hybrid car, meaning it's going to save you miles in the long run. So you have to think of it as a trade-off though, because the car does cost a little bit more than most other vans out there, but you're going to be saving it in the long run. If you're only planning to keep the car for maybe 1 to 2 years, then one of the other vans might be a better deal for you. If you're planning to keep the van for multiple years, maybe about 5 to 10 years, then that's when it starts making sense. So with these hybrid cars, I want to say there's a little bit of a misunderstanding on how much miles per gallon you actually get. Right now, Toyota's website says this van gets you about 36 miles per gallon, which I think it's very possible. However, it does require you to change your driving habits. All right, so first let's just take a look at the dashboard. It's a little bit different than what you might be used to, because you no longer actually see any RPMs, but here you see something that says charging, eco, and then power. When you're driving your car, usually if you keep it within the eco range, that's when you are going to be getting the most miles per gallons, or the most effect from your fuel. If you want a little bit more power, that's when you're speeding up a bit. That's when this power kicks in and your car is no longer as fuel efficient. And then whenever you let go of your gas, that's when the charging happens. Also, whenever you brake, charging happens. So what it basically means is that it really depends on your driving style on how much miles per gallon you're going to be able to get. I would say that for me, without changing my driving habits, I'm still able to get about anywhere from 32 to 33 miles per gallon. However, if I do consciously kind of make sure I'm not speeding too fast and keeping everything within that eco range, I'm able to get up to 37 miles per gallon. All right, so now let's move on to my top 2 favorite things about this car besides the fuel efficiency, is that the large amount of room you get. Regardless of which row you sit in, you get plenty of room. So obviously the front row, no one's really going to have much issues with leg room or headroom or anything for any cars. It's usually when you get to the back rows, that's when you start having problems. Here though, however, your 2 second row, the captain seats are amazing, no issues there. And it's the 3rd row that it's gonna be a little bit of fun for most people. All right, so right now I am sitting in the middle seat of the 3rd row, and as you can see, as someone who is 5'9", I still have a decent amount of headspace. Even my hair isn't touching the ceiling yet. However, that means that if you are a little bit on the taller side, or someone on the taller side, they probably don't want to sit here on the back 3rd row. They probably want to choose the 2nd row or the front row. All right, so this is how much legroom I have, and I think it's still fairly comfortable for me to be in a ride maybe up to 20-30 minutes, even without any issue. And keep in mind though, that this is with this back seat all the way to the back. Well, not all the way to the back, but pretty far back, due to me keeping my son's car seat farther back so my son doesn't kick that front seat. All right, so I have no complaints about the trunk space. It's plenty for me for what I use it for. I know some of you are curious at how I actually pack everything with my groceries. Unfortunately, none of my grocery trips recently have been you buying that much groceries, as we do have services where we get meats delivered to us. So we usually don't have to buy that at the grocery store. However, this is how it looks at a Costco trip. Of course, if you still need more room, you can easily just fold down the back seats and you have plenty of space to store everything you need. So I'm not sure which one I like more, the extra room in the car or the sliding doors. These sliding doors really make life much easier. With the doors sliding like this, you no longer have to worry about the cars that are parked next to you, so you can take your time putting your child in and out of the car. Alright, so I definitely talked about this little cubby section or little storage area in my first impression. However, I still find that it's super useful. Right now, generally, I always have tissue here as well as some wipes, wet wipes, as you never know when your kids are going to need it, as well as I have some spare clothes down here all the time since my daughter, as I mentioned last time, was just finishing toilet learning, although she hasn't really used that spare clothes in a while. So I might be able to remove it soon. So those are the major things I really like about this van. Of course, I really still like the cup holders and all the charging ports. Everything I mentioned in my first impression video still holds true for what I like about it. However, not everything is all pretty. There are a few cons to this car. So like most modern cars, the car does have Android Auto as well as Apple CarPlay. However, the bad part is that it has to be wired only. I did end up getting a little accessory here to make everything wireless because, hey, it's 2024. Toyota probably needs to get with it. I don't know why wireless isn't included, but in order for you to get wireless, you need to purchase a third-party accessory. In this video, I won't mention all the must-have accessories that I've bought for the Toyota Sienna so far. I'll make a video about that later, so make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on that. So this is another little thing that kind of irks me with the design is whoever thought of this, I assume this is like the phone holder area because it does fit a phone pretty decently. However, as you can tell, it's not that big, though it doesn't have much room. This is an iPhone 15 Pro, so it's not the biggest phone. So if you have the Pro Max, definitely won't fit here. And if you're trying to use your Android Auto, you have to make it upside down. And then you plug your thing from over here. As you can notice, doesn't look good at all. I just usually end up leaving it in this section when I had it for wired. Another small gripe is that this port here is the only one that connects to your connectivity of your car. So this is the only one that can use for CarPlay and Android Auto. All the other ports, like the ones you have right here underneath the armrest, or even the ones back here, are only for charging. Alright, so before I kind of tell you what I don't like about this next thing about this car, let's talk about the 4-zone system we have for climate control. As you can see here, there are 4 different numbers, meaning that you can adjust each one of these zones to a separate number. You can go to the rear and control the left side and the right sides by itself, so there's no more fighting. One person likes it too cold, one person likes it warmer. That's fine. I really like that. However, the thing that I found problem with is that the second row AC vents, the airflow isn't that great. These front airflows here in the front are really nice. Ones in the back row seem to be, the third row seem to be nice. However, the ones on the second row just aren't up to par. The only solution I found is that I have to manually set the AC to run a little bit higher for the back one, which is a little bit annoying because the fan noise is pretty loud afterwards, which makes a little bit conversation or the music I'm playing for my child has to be turned up higher. Alright, so probably the last thing I don't like about the car is that these auto sensors, they don't always tend to work properly. You can see how many times I had to do it twice in order for the side to open. However, the trunk doesn't seem to have much of this issue. I haven't found myself not able to open the trunk or even close it. I'm able to kind of get that sensor every time. So I'm not sure why the 2 sides have that issue. Alright, so now I have a question for you. After hearing all the cons and quirks that I've mentioned in this video, has it turned you away from the Sienna? Or maybe the pros that I mentioned has made you still interested in purchasing one? Let me know down below in the comment section, and I'll see you in the next one.